Good evening, and welcome to another episode of The Fire Caves, a Star Trek Deep Space Nine podcast, really just a Trek podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Perry.
And I'm your host, David. Today we're talking about Star Trek Voyager Season 2, Episode 6, Twisted. Before we continue, you can find us on Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube as The Fire Caves, a Star Trek podcast.
And that is correct. And as I say every single week, you should find us and follow us because we are great, we're awesome, we're a good time. And I need to apologize. Apparently, last week, my system decided to completely crap out on me. We did have some storms, like tangentially in the area, that was messing up some stuff. It had been causing internet outages across like my region, but it finally hit me smack dab in the middle of us doing the show last week. So that's why everything disconnected, and that's why there's a weird episode out there that just drops. So hopefully it doesn't happen again. Hopefully we've gotten all the issues worked out, and the greater server gods out there will let us stay connected while we do the show. But that's what happened. That's what it was. We didn't just drop out because we had no material. It was literally the universe saying, okay, shut up. So there you go. But we're back, and we're ready to dive into another episode of Voyager. This one is, like David said, the episode Twisted. An interesting episode. I like this one for a few different reasons. We're going to get into that, of course, as we start to talk about the episode. But before we do all that, I'd like to give each other a chance to check in, catch up, because sometimes this is the only time that we have had to talk with each other. So, to that end, David, how has your week been?
Week's been fine. Watching the show Silo, on to Season 3 now, which is the new season coming out. I like to rewatch a previous season before I start watching a new season, and because this is an Apple show, they do it weekly. They drop an episode weekly, so the show is dropping like episode 7 this week, but we've only got through episode 2 of season 3 so far. Season 3 is really uses book 2 finally of the original series, and so it's starting to answer a lot more questions that have been on the back burner for 2 seasons of the show, explaining what's going on. It's just a good show. I mean, season 1 is amazing. I mean, season 1 all by itself is just fantastic. Rewatching season 2 was good because I appreciated the second watching of season 2. I didn't like it as much the first time, but this time watching it was fine. And so I'm looking forward to season 3 because it does introduce some important changes to the story moving forward. So looking forward to seeing more of that. Saw the new Spider-Man movie. That one was good. It's like one of the most successful films of all time right now. And started the Two Towers. Haven't gotten terribly far yet, but yeah, Tolkien, Two Towers. So yeah, how about you? What's up with you?
It's been a while since I've read Lord of the Rings. I know that we've talked about those movies a lot, but it's been a good while since I've read them. My week has been very, very busy now that school is in full go for my little one. So we've had a lot of, running around, papers to sign, groups to join or not join, and all that kind of stuff getting taken care of in these first few days. Right. But I did find, in addition to work and workouts and all that stuff that I'm still doing, of course, I did find some time to start reading something else, though, and that is the first book in the James S.A. Corey new series.
Oh, okay.
The Mercy of Gods. I did, and I mean, like, I've only read 2 chapters. That's it. Okay. That was all the time that I really had for it. But I will tell you, I'm already intrigued. The language in this one is vastly different from what you were used to with The Expanse. So now, I say that in this sense of like, there's a lot of pronoun dropping, basically. Like, there's a lot of names for stuff that they're using to establish this new world this new context. So especially in the first couple of chapters, there's just a lot, So be prepared for that when you start it. There is early on an oblique reference, I think, to The Expanse. And I'm going to go back and read that particular section because the way it's phrased, it's like it could be, the ring that they're talking about. It could be something else. But again, there's just a lot there at first. However, I am very intrigued. It feels very, very Dune-esque, this book.
Really?
Yeah.
As in like the game's Doom? Or like
no, Dune,
tone?
as in Frank Herbert.
Oh, Dune. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Dune.
Yeah, it feels very, like you got these people who seem to have a caste-like society, and it's based around your particular skill set, expertise, and then also there's a familial line to it, this family has influence here, this, whatever, but anybody can rise to notoriety if your scientific achievement is high enough. So and then again, that's all within like the first couple of chapters that I've read so far. And it's just like I said, I'm very intrigued by it. I'm ready to really get into more of this and see how things play out. But yeah, I've at least started it. And yeah, go ahead and pick this up. This is the first book in their new series. I do believe they are on book 4 of this series.
No, I think they've only gotten through 2 so far.
I thought that when we first talked about it, they were at 3 and were working on the 4th. So
I can look it up real fast.
It's fine either way. That's what I thought, was that by now 3 books were definitely out and they were working on the 4th. That's what I meant when I was saying book 4. Not book 4 is not available yet. They're just working on it. But either way, get in on this series now while it's still young and fresh, and you don't have to wait, for the whole thing or whatever. But yeah, check it out. Mercy of the Gods, James S.A. Corey, same people who wrote The Expanse, which we, of course, love so much. And who knows, maybe this will be the next one that is a series somewhere down the road. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and say this one will not be a series. When you start to read the book, you will understand why. There's just the world building is so different, and already the descriptions of things in here are so wild and so very, very sci-fi. This one would be hard to do. That's why, again, it feels very Dune-esque to me. It's got a lot of those heightened stylistic elements to it, grandiose things going on that it would not without the use of a lot of CGI, which we all know is incredibly expensive when you get to the TV level. Right. I don't see it being done. So yeah, just enjoy this one. But yeah, that has been essentially it. Like I said, I've been doing the workouts and stuff. I did slow down a little bit because all the other stuff that was going on with schooling and everything else. I'm looking to get back to where I was once my kids' schedule stabilizes a bit more, and then going on from there. So, but we're not here to talk about all that. We are here to talk about Star Trek Voyager in the episode Twisted. Do you want to give the recap, or do you want?
You said you liked this one. I think I gave the last one. So why don't you do this one? This was a bit weird.
Yeah. All right. So this episode starts off with a birthday, and it is Kes's birthday. And most of the crew is down in the holodeck. They're celebrating, and Harry Kim is on the bridge with Tuvok and is very eager to get to said party. But Tuvok's like, your shift doesn't end in 15 minutes, but sit there. Kim keeps needling him a little bit, and then finally Tuvok relents and is like, yeah, fine, here's a reason for you to be down there. Go ahead. Unfortunately, he gets stopped because they run into what appears to be a nebula moving through space. Tuvok tries to call down to the holodeck to let the captain know, and he's just able to tell her that they've run into a phenomenon when all of a sudden his voice becomes incredibly distorted. The rest of the crew starts to leave the holodeck, and they are trying to get back to their various places of interest. But no matter what they do, they all keep seeming to end up right back near the holodeck. And it's throwing everybody off. What's going on? Why is nothing where it's supposed to be? People's quarters seem to be like that. Who were on one set of quarters should be on one deck, and others on another deck, and yet somehow they're right next to each other. Like all kinds of weird stuff like that is going on. Tuvok gets lost and ends up running into Chakotay and Neelix, who then promptly gets lost because, of course, he does. Janeway and Harry are crawling through some Jeffries tubes when they try to get to the bridge. They open the Jeffries tube, and the nebula has penetrated the ship and partially sucks Janeway inside. This seems to do something to her, mess with her mind. He's able to drag her back to the holodeck. Basically, everything that they try to do doesn't work. They come up with a couple of different solutions to try to either beam to the bridge or to stop the nebula from encroaching on the ship, but none of it works. At one point, they pull up a map to show what the ship looks like based upon all the readings and scans they've been taking as they've been attempting to move through the ship. And it literally is the ship twisted in on itself in a few different ways.
Right.
So once again, they're trying all these different things. Nothing is working. And finally, the nebula seems to have consumed pretty much all the ship except for where they are on the holodeck. Of course, B'Elanna still wants to go down fighting. She's still trying to come up with ideas. Tuvok is finally like, look, we've done everything that we can. If we keep this up, we're probably going to end up blowing up the ship with all of our attempts here. So the only thing that we can really do is nothing. Just accept that this is happening. A lot of people aren't really up for that until finally Chakotay is like, yeah, he's right. Let's just wait it out. We don't know, what's going on. And Tuvok, again, he makes the point, like, we don't know that what's happening is hostile. Like, yeah, the captain was messed up, but there's still not enough evidence to say that what's happening is going to, like, kill us. So we're fighting against something really kind of for no reason. They sit through it. They come through it just fine. Turns out that the nebula was some kind of alien being, I guess, or its own alien ship. It copied the ship's database, but it also deposited a lot of different information into the ship itself. The captain who was affected by this thing has now been restored to normal, and now the ship is also back to normal. Everybody's able to continue Kess's birthday party. Oh, it's also important to note that Tom gave Kess a rather, I guess we're supposed to think it's expensive because he spent replicator rations on it. But again, in my head, I'm just like, it's replicator rations, man. I mean, it's the equivalent of, he just didn't get boots for a week and then he got her a necklace. Like, it doesn't make any, whatever, So, whatever. He got her a necklace. She uses it and keeps a picture of Neelix inside it. And everybody else is happy. That's essentially the episode. There's other parts of it. I mean, it sounds rather drab, but we're going to get into why I like this episode and why it's a unique entry here especially for Voyager so early on. But before we do all those things, what did you think of this episode, David?
Yeah, I was not as enamored with this one. You'll have to tell me what you thought when we get there. But for myself, this episode is one of those episodes where nothing happens in the end when it comes right down to it. Now, I'll say this. Part of what makes this episode interesting but also boring is that whatever the crew attempts to do ultimately is ineffective. This is an episode where the crew fails to fix the situation, but the situation wasn't as dire as they initially expected. So in some ways, it's good that things don't just get fixed. So many storylines on TV, our heroes, are presented with a problem, and by the end of 40 minutes, they've solved it. So on one level, I appreciate that. But on the other hand, it does make for a boring story. I mean, in the end, they all sit down in chairs while this green force field slowly overtakes them. I mean, literally, it took its time. Like, Tuvok at one point is like, we have 3 minutes and 40 seconds before we're going to be overtaken. And then they have like a 5-minute long conversation where they're like, well, I guess that's that. And then they sit down and the force field decides to start moving again because apparently it took a break while they were all talking. And it slowly envelops.
It heard them talking about it.
Yeah.
And it wanted to listen.
It overcomes Chakotay and B'Elanna. Then overcomes Paris and Tom and Kim. And then the rest, and then they're all fine. Even though the captain was briefly like unconscious from touching it, it's like she should have gone all the way through it, I guess. It is a slow episode. The only real conflict is the Kes, Tom, Paris, Neelix love triangle nonsense. Which, to be frank, Neelix is right to be upset because Tom Paris, I mean, as far as I can tell, he was the only one who brought a present. Did anyone else bring a present?
Yeah, we don't see that anybody else has brought a present, which is kind of telling in the sense of they try to make the whole thing about her having a birthday and in particular a surprise party all about this human cultural tradition, right?
Right.
But we all know part of that tradition is getting gifts. So the fact that no one else followed through, it's like, what's wrong with you guys? Like Tom was correct. But I mean, now the over sentimentality of the grid,
it makes him look like a creep for having brought the present, and he's already a creep because he's the one who already hits on her anyway, because that's just who he is. And the gift he gets is a bit. I mean, he sacrificed 2 weeks of rations. Now, I get your point that it's like, what is that? How much does that really hurt him? It's not like he's going to starve to death or anything. But like, where did he get it exactly? If it's just the replicator made it for her. Well, I can see how Neelix could be like, oh, well, I, made the whole cake from scratch. I actually tried to make this. But, he spent 2 weeks of his rations. I don't know. The whole thing is an example of Neelix is right to wonder what Tom's doing, but no one has the guts to tell Tom to knock it off. And then Neelix has a brief conversation with Chakotay when they're wandering the corridors trying to map out everything. And he's like, are you a man who has success with women? Have you ever been jealous? And Chakotay has to be like, I've been jealous before, but they never get to finish the conversation because then they run into Tuvok, and then Neelix just disappears for the rest of the episode. And I just felt like this episode was a poorly executed attempt to make for a semi-dangerous situation, but because they chose to not have our heroes successfully overcome the problem, it meant that the ultimately this problem had to be a non-threatening one, and it just left them as is. And according to the Wikipedia page here, we never hear about this data deposit of 20 million gigaquads of data ever again. It's never brought up again as far as we know.
I'm certainly not saying the episode isn't without faults, and that is definitely one of them. Okay. Right. That would make sense to make some kind of reference here. You are in an area of space that you have no other reference to. You suddenly get this massive data dump. What does that do for you? Does it help you to shore up your path home?
Right.
Do you find other species that you can make contact with that are potentially friendly? What does it do? We never hear another reference to it ever again. And that definitely...
How do you understand the data? How do you read the data? Does it take up so much of your computer memory that you can't fit any new data in?
There's and that's another thing too. It's like we take for granted the computer on all of Trek because we're just always led to believe that these computers that run these ships are massive and powerful and have near endless ability to store information, and that's even a plot point in Discovery. As a matter of fact, when they basically download a consciousness into the system, and it's, it basically makes the ship sentient, and they have no other computer issues. All their other systems work fine, but they're housing an entire consciousness on the ship, And
Yeah, at least
everyone's
in
like,
Deep
"Oh, that's
Space
fine."
Nine, like it took up the whole station's data
Yeah,
to store
yeah.
the
When they
personalities.
yeah, when Cisco and the Runabout crew were beamed in there, and their consciousness took up the computer memory, it stopped all other processes. They could barely function because the memory required to hold their consciousness together was overwhelming.
Right.
You know, but no, we don't ever seem to have that problem anywhere else ever
Right.
again. But I like this episode in spite of a lot of these things because one, it does something that we rarely see, which is it turns the ship into our adversary. Our ship is our monster this week.
Okay.
So I really liked that. Like, this thing that you have come to rely on, you take for granted, you're walking the decks all the time, you don't think anything of it. Suddenly, no matter what you do, you can't get off this one deck. You really almost seem like you can't get out of this particular room. Any true successes beyond it, and you end up like the captain, almost catatonic,
Right.
Yeah, and like Tuvok's plan, his very logical plan of, well, I'm just going to take only right turns, and
Right.
eventually that'll lead me to something new. Even his logic is turned on its ear because we see that it doesn't work.
Right.
So I really like that aspect, that the ship was no longer reliable. Your information was no longer stable.
Right.
Another thing that I like was that this kind of monster, this nebula, ultimately forces the crew to sit with themselves and contemplate how they want to handle the last minutes of their existence. This is something that's done a lot in Trek, different ways, but there always seems to be a moment where the crews have to contemplate their potential end. As far as they're concerned, this is going to be your end, and they have to just sit with it. And B'Elanna wants to fight against it. Chakotay and Tuvok even have a brief moment where, Chakotay's like, I don't necessarily not like you, like he couldn't quite say, I respect you. But that was kind of the way that they were going about it. And the same is true for Tuvok as well, being like, I didn't really approve of you either, but it is what it is at this point. I just like stuff like that. I like these moments where the crews have to just sit with themselves, and we get to see that, because too many times in Trek we see them, pulling it out at the last minute. The proverbial stop the bomb on 0-1 right before it explodes. All that. But to go
Galaxy
through all
Quest, baby. It always stops at one.
Always stops on one, right. So, but to see them being like, we've tried all these things and none of them work, and now the only thing we can do is just accept the fact that this is a situation totally outside of our expertise, beyond our control. There you go. So I like that. This also does a good job of laying, or at least solidifying, more of that groundwork of the lovers triangle between Neelix, Kes, and Tom. Tom, while giving her a gift, he hasn't actually done anything totally egregious. Like, he's never pressed up against Kes. We've never seen them like holding hands or kissing or anything like that. But we do see an amping up of the level of his interest. Right. It was easy early on to explain things away as just Neelix being jealous and Kes being friendly and Tom being the alien to them, and them not understanding his cultural whatevers. But now we can clearly see there's something more overt to what Tom's up to. And you're right, the other crew members also, in seeing this, someone should have pulled Tom aside and said, hey, what are you doing? Why don't you cool it? Because you know that these two are together and we kind of need them. I mean, now that could be debatable as whether you really think that they need Kes and Neelix, but as full-on members of their crew and knowing that they're in a relationship together, what Tom's doing is wrong, and someone should have said, hey, like, back up, be your friend, but respect the relationship. So, and we never see anything like that. So I'm, again, like I said, I like that we've got all these little moments that pop up here.
Right.
So yeah,
I see your point. I like the idea of like the ship is the enemy. I guess there's, for me, like when they go to like take the tricorders and map out what the ship looks like, and they just take the image of the Voyager and they just kind of twist it up a little bit. I wish the ship had been like unable to display on a 2D or 3D model the ship at this time. The ship is beyond the parameters of a 3D construct. Like that would have been fun. Like I can't, like the computer's like I can kind of get a grip on this information, but I don't have a way of fully explaining it to you, so I'm not going to even try. Like I don't have the parameters to probably display this. That's what, something like that. Because then they zoom in, they're like, oh, holodeck. Or I'm sorry, deck 6 is unaffected. I'm like, bro, I'm looking at a trapezoid as opposed to a rectangle right now. I don't know what the heck you're talking about in this picture. I just felt like this episode, like, I mean, it starts off interesting. It's Kessa's birthday. You got, Tom being a he's a little too forward. I mean, again, it's a necklace. It's not. It's a long one. I don't know. Again, there's no one else giving out presents, which is just weird. And they're doing it in that blasted pool hall of all places. And then, they're able to get you engineering multiple times, but they seem to have to want their cake and eat it too, because they're like, oh, it's constantly changing. You can't go where you want. But then like Tom is able to retrace his steps back to engineering through the turbo lift, and then she's able to go back a second time. And when they do get, they try to beam to the bridge, but they beam to the holodeck and they beam onto the pool table. I'm glad it didn't like partially beam them onto something else, like with their bodies, in the.
Oh, that would have been cool if like half of them had materialized on the holodeck and then the other half was like in a bulkhead somewhere.
Oh god, that would have been body horror, but I don't mind body horror sometimes.
See, that would be something that would be done in like new gritty Trek. It would be, one hero officer and one nobody.
And then
the hero officer the hero officer would be like, I could have swore that I was in that wall for a second. Now, like, well, unfortunately, Ensign Jeffries over here is still in the wall. And you turn and you look and you just see like, Han Solo'd coming through the thing,
Right.
But yeah,
I just want to say it because I've said it before, but it came up in my mind again recently. There's the book called Red Shirts by the author John Scalzi, who that's like the whole bit with the hero officer and the red shirt character who's like meant to die, but like the red shirt characters end up realizing they're on a TV show, and so they have to save themselves from being inadvertently killed by the script. And it's a great little it's obviously a Star Trek inspired book, but it's a great both parody of but also homage to the show in both the sci-fi elements but also in the fact that it's a show, because again the characters realize they're on a show and they have to find a way to address that problem. I really want to reread it again. It came out in 2012, so it's been out for about 14 years now, I guess. But that author has written a number of things now, and apparently he's pretty successful. So he came on my radar again recently, so I thought about it. And as you were talking, I was like, that's a perfect example of a red shirt character. Yeah, the hero, our main cast will survive anything and everything, but those poor red shirts, man, they're just there to get killed by whatever the monster of the week is.
that book that you were talking about, it also reminds me of a skit from a show called Robot Chicken, which used to do a lot of claymation. They did one for Star Wars that was about this, and it was basically talking about how the Force isn't real, but all of the various Imperial officers have decided that it's just in their best interest to let Vader play out his delusion of thinking the Force is real. So like whenever he does something, like he's doing his like Force choke or whatever, they all like fake die every time, but then they come back and they just like get a haircut or they wear a mustache or they change their uniform. And I love that. I was like, that's just the best bit ever. Because you have all these officers that are just walking in and be like, yeah, I've died 15 times this week. It's hilarious. So
I love the Emperor because it's voiced by what's his name from Family Guy. and the he's on the escalator and he has to salute all of the stormtroopers.
Yes.
Stormtrooper.
And by about the 12th time he's doing now, he's just completely broken down. He's like, "Oh, go ahead yourself. Go back yourself. Go back." Yeah.
And then the one guy bringing his daughter to work day, and it's the opening scene of the original film, and they're shooting down the corridors. Pretty fun.
The Emperor's trying to get on the elevator. Yeah. Palpatine's trying to get on the elevator, and the stormtroopers hitting the button real quick to close the doors and wait there. It's just like a great bit for all that. So I love when they do little things like that because it's just, again, it's obviously hilarious, especially if you're in the fandom to see that. So yeah,
100%.
Now, as much as I've talked about obviously the things that I've liked about this episode, we've obviously hit on some problems. Problem one, everybody survives. Like even Janeway's brief, interlude with the Nebula, she's basically okay. Problem two is the massive data dump that is never mentioned ever again. Any other problems, glaring or otherwise, that you can think of for this episode?
Before I mention that, I just want to say that the data dump, it's too bad they never mentioned it again because it would be a great mystery. They could have a great mystery they have to solve for like a whole season. Like, we can't properly interpret this data. We want to know what it is. We have an intuition that it'll be important, but we can't solve it, and they're constantly trying to solve it. And then that'd be a great little mystery. So I'm sad they never actually make anything of it because they could. The only other element of this episode that really stands out to me as something that was like it was a try, but I think it was also honestly a failure, was Chakotay and Tuvok having a moment of like not liking each other, and like Chakotay losing his cool. Like,
you're talking. So it happens twice.
Right.
There's the first time when they're in the corridors and they kind of, it's that disagreement, and you can feel there's tension there. And then we have the bit of a not quite resolution in the holodeck.
Right. And to start off with, first off, Tuvok was in charge of the bridge where the episode began. Kim is like, hey, do you mind if I basically, leave early to go join the party? And Tuvok is like, well, you still have 30 minutes left on your shift, but the holodecks do need, someone to go check on them. So why don't you go do that? Basically go do it. And then immediately this is a problem I have with Voyager right now, is they constantly run into these nebula things, this space anomaly, and half the time they're living. I mean, not even half the time. Most of the time, these nebulas they run into have some sort of living creature inside. And
Voyager does love a nebula. That's true. Voyager loves a nebula.
But what I'm getting to with all this is that the reason he meets up with Chakotay is that he decided to leave the bridge to go find out where Captain was because the Captain hadn't shown up. And I'm like, bro, I don't think that a commanding officer would leave the bridge like that in a situation where they can't get a hold of anybody. Like, you would send another, ensign to go try and make communications with somebody. I don't think you would do it yourself. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. It just felt like he had abandoned the bridge, frankly. Now, I understand why. Again, this is a plot thing. The writing wanted him to be he's part of the main cast, part of the main crew. We want him to do something. We want him to interact with our people. So I get it. I just felt like the explanation of, I would have rather him have been like, I went to go step into the ready room or something, and I ended up outside the bridge and couldn't get back. Like, that would have been a better explanation in my opinion, but whatever. The first, as you mentioned, their first interaction, they're in the hallway. They've lost Neelix, and Tuvok's plan is to constantly take a right turn until he hits a dead end, because then he can map that out. But Chakotay's point is that, this anomaly they're experiencing is constantly changing where they're going. And so the better solution is actually to separate and try and map things separately, which seems to be dumb as well because they just lost Neelix. Like, but then they literally walk down two separate corridors because Tuvok's like, all right, we'll do your plan. And they immediately end up right back next to each other. So for me, that just felt like they weren't consistent with the rules of the problem. Are they truly in a maze that's moving all the time? But maybe there's a pattern that they could, recognize and feed into the computer, which is what they do later. But the computer is just like it's a weird twisting, as the episode's called. But anyway, we're talking about Tuvok and Chakotay later. So go ahead. Yeah.
Again, this is something that I like because this is something that we've already established between these two. They don't like each other. Chakotay feels that Tuvok betrayed him because he was a member of his Maquis group. Right. And then it turns out later on that Tuvok was really working for the Federation as a spy. And so he's clearly never forgiven Tuvok for that. And he is keeping Tuvok at arm's length. Tuvok it's kind of the same. He doesn't, I wouldn't necessarily say he doesn't like Chakotay, but it's clear that he doesn't trust him all the way. Chakotay was Maquis, former Starfleet officer who then became Maquis, and now he's forced into this leadership role over Tuvok, who, if Chakotay wasn't there, Tuvok would have stepped in as first officer. So, and Tuvok does say that, it's like, it would have been me had it not been you. I understand Captain Janeway's choice, however, and he's just, trying to move on. He's being Vulcan about it. He's just like, I understand the logic behind our situation, and I'm not trying to make it affect our job and how we do things. But if it has affected it, I apologize. I feel like Tuvok is doing a better job of owning up to the situation than Chakotay is. I feel like Chakotay is nursing his feelings a little bit more, and he should definitely, work harder to let things go, because Tuvok was doing a job. Like, at the end of it all, Tuvok was doing a job. He's a loyal Starfleet officer. He was assigned this task of infiltrating the Maquis, and he did it. It's unfortunate that it was, Chakotay, but it could have been anybody. Could have been any Maquis,
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, I think that Chakotay is just taking it a bit too far. And so now here they are in this situation where they're forced to work together. And he's just like, nah, I'm not going to cut you any slack. You betrayed me. And so I'm just going to, throw sand in your eye every chance I get.
And my problem, too, with that is that it seems to come out of nowhere in this episode. They're literally talking about solutions. B'Elanna wants to go back to engineering, to basically rig the warp core to, try and push out on whatever is going on and, force it back. Tuvok says we need to maneuver our way out of it. And when Chakotay initially says, I want to go with B'Elanna's plan, Tuvok, objects. And he says something about, the captain, blah, blah, blah.
He says, customarily, Captain Janeway has basically sided with me, is how he basically is what he's saying in that moment.
Right.
Customarily, Captain Janeway leans.
He mentions the captain, and that's what sets Chakotay off. And Chakotay gets angry,
he's like, she's not in command. I am. I'm going to do what I want. That's how it sounds.
Right. It seems like he loses his cool. He doesn't respond with, I hear you, and I still think we should do B'Elanna's plan. He reacts with emotion, which again is the whole Vulcans don't. And later on when he apologizes, he says, to be frank, I've always found you kind of irritating, blah, blah, blah. And I feel like, I'll put it this way. My understanding is that this episode was originally supposed to be one of those season 1 episodes that got put in season 2. It was production number 119, 1 being season 1, so 119. But it ended up being a part of season 2. So I think this makes more sense being a season 1 episode, in the sense of if he has problems with Tuvok, that seems like stuff that they would be addressing in season 1. it's kind of a bummer it got pushed to season 2 because it then makes it feel like, okay, aren't you guys, haven't you dealt with this problem yet?
and you actually just made a very valid point with what you said. When it comes down to it, Chakotay says to Tuvok, "I've always found you irritating." He makes it personal.
Right.
It's not about you betrayed me as a Starfleet officer or whatever. It's you personally. I have always, and he says it, I've always found you. So that means even before you knew he was a Federation spy,
Right.
you thought that Tuvok was annoying. You thought that he was irritating. You were
Right.
already set to go against him. Him being a Starfleet officer just gave you yet another reason to do so.
Right.
Tuvok, on the other hand, keeps it professional.
Yes.
I agree with Captain Janeway's decisions,
Right.
or I typically agree with her decisions. I did, however, hold fault here because you are a former Maquis, and I wasn't sure what your thing was, but in accepting Janeway's decision, I have to also accept you. I apologize if I didn't do that all the way. There's a distinct difference between how they both are approaching each other, and that's when it's verbalized, and it again makes Chakotay wrong.
Yes.
Because Chakotay's animus with Tuvok is entirely personal, not professional. And that's wrong.
Yeah, I wish he in that moment had said, not that I find you irritating, because I'll put it this way. In the original Star Trek with, Spock, the whole idea is that, Spock and what's his face?
McCoy.
Captain. No, not McCoy, but Captain
Spock. Kirk.
Kirk, that's it. Sorry, couldn't think of the name. The whole idea is that like Kirk is the human character who's got the initiative and thinks of things, and he's real exciting, and Spock is the serious one, and they would clash, right? But the Vulcan race as quote unquote irritating because they are rational, to me feels like that's who they are.
It's a terrible trope. It's a terrible move in Trek, to be completely honest. In the original series,
as a complaint against the Vulcans at this point.
In the original series and in Next Generation, that was never the case. The Vulcans were always the calm, serene, rational ones, hyper rational ones. You could always count on them to make that kind of measured, even decision. Then later Treks tried to introduce this wrinkle in their characterization of kind of giving them this weird kind of arrogance, this irritating air about them, which we see go full blown in Enterprise, where their Vulcans are just downright, they're nasty, they're arrogant, they're rude, they're condescending, and then that's also continued in Strange New Worlds, Discovery, all of them. Now the characterization of Vulcans has gone from it used to be they were like a paragon race. You aspired to be that controlled, that measured, relying on science and fact to guide your life. And now they're just like, well, if you act that way, you're just a snooty elitist. Like, that's how it's all come off now. Seriously. Like, if you watch all the newest Trek stuff, anytime they bring in a Vulcan character, that is always their attitude. They look down on humans. They think they're better than humans. And that was never the case in anything we ever saw in the original series or Next Generation. I don't know why there was this shift to make Vulcans this way, but I've never liked it. And we definitely see some of that. Again, inklings of that here. It's just full blown now. All the new Trek stuff, even with Strange New Worlds featuring Spock yet again, whenever other Vulcans come on, they particularly delight in treating Spock horribly. And so whereas before in the 60s, Spock was our only view into the Vulcan world, and you thought all Vulcans acted like him. And when you did randomly see other Vulcans, they did act like him. Now it's nope, even Spock's an outlier to Vulcans. They, look down on him. He's this gross hybrid, half-breed, whatever. And that's just, it's awful. Like, I don't know why they went that route with him, but it's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, like Vulcans should be distant because of their lack of emotion. And there can be moments where they might say something that is like a backhanded compliment or insulting because, oh, you humans, you've overcome your emotions. I compliment you, or something like that. But the idea of him being like, I find you annoying, like, I'll put it this way, I don't find Tuvok annoying. I find him professional. I find him refreshing.
Yeah,
I find him, honestly, one of the best characters so far. Like, who's the actor who plays him?
Tim Russ.
Tim Russ. Like Tim Russ is doing a great job, and of course, Tim Russ had that one episode in Deep Space Nine where he was part of the crew that like helped kidnap the
Dax.
Dax.
He played a Klingon in an episode.
Yeah.
He was also on an episode of Next Generation where they tried to steal trilithium resin from the Enterprise when it's docked. And he was in the Star Trek Generations movie as I believe he's the tactical officer on board the Enterprise B.
Right.
In there. So,
right.
And then he's also in Star Trek The Undiscovered Country, which is the final movie.
Right.
With the original crew. He's on Captain Sulu's ship, the Excelsior, as well, which will come into play later. We'll get there. So,
yeah.
He's got Tim Russ has a long history with Trek. He's actually auditioned for a couple of different roles throughout Trek and almost gotten them several times. They just couldn't quite figure it out, and then they would often go in another direction, and then finally they were like, nah, he's too
we gotta
he made it.
Yeah. And I mean, again, part of my problem with any sort of story writing is that I want to do it my way and I want my characters to get along when it actually is good sometimes when they have conflict. I just wish that this conflict it felt like it came out of the blue because Chakotay kind of loses it very quickly when he talks with like, I want B'Elanna's plan, like and I'm the captain now, kind of moment.
Which he really could have easily just explained as, I respect that Captain Janeway has her way of doing things, but I have my own, and I have often relied on B'Elanna.
Right. That's a great moment. That's a great moment. That would be perfect. Yeah.
And so that's how I'm doing it. Janeway did it her way. I'm doing there's another way they could have handled it besides him trying to be rude and shutting down.
Well, and what he should have said is I want her plan B, plan A, but Tuvok, go prepare for your plan B. If hers doesn't work, we need you to be ready to try and do plan B. And he could have said, well, if her plan doesn't work, I won't have a chance to try my plan B. But at the very least, as opposed to we're only trying one option, like I don't feel like that's also. I think Star Trek officers would be smart enough to try and put multiple plans going in an unknown crises like this. Now, there are many times when that doesn't seem to happen. To just go with whatever plan A was, and they just wait for B'Elanna or Geordi to give them the solution they're looking for. Just need a couple hours to rig something together. But yeah, I'll just say this: it just came out of the blue a bit. His ultimate thing about I find you irritating just seemed like a season 1 problem, not a season 2 problem. And yeah, I want them to work together because I like when characters really work together and they're a team. This episode felt like we had every part of the main cast here, but it was this challenge to really give everyone a solid purpose. The scene where they all break into pairs to go do multiple things, that kind of worked. But it also, it was an example of they were having to fit a fairly large cast into having something happen. This wasn't an episode, for example, with Kim last episode, where everything was Kim related and everyone else was basically a minor character for the most part. They're trying to get the whole cast in there and all of them participate. And it would almost be better if, for example, this was a Chakotay episode and he's having to solve this problem, and Tuvok is the one that he's having to kind of come up against. They have 2 different leadership plans. That actually would have been great because if Tuvok was on the bridge but Chakotay's not. But Chakotay is trying to get to the bridge. Like they could still kind of communicate, but their communications were conflicting, and that would actually have been more of a interesting dynamic. Keep Tuvok on the bridge, and he doesn't fully understand the situation because he doesn't understand why the maze, like he doesn't appreciate the maze problem. Like, where is everybody, kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just trying to come up with ideas, but yeah, I feel like I've said everything I need to say.
No, that's fine. We don't have to, beat the dead horse here. We've got.
I'm sure we'll keep talking just because I'll think of something.
Yeah, actually, in this last 9 minutes, do want to share some rather sad news for those of you who may know this star, remember her work from things like Remember the Titans, Heroes, and I believe she was in Ice Princess and something else. Hayden Panettiere has died.
Yeah.
She's 36 years old. She has passed away. So no information yet as to cause of death. But she has passed away. It's very shocking. It's very sudden. It's not often that you hear of someone at that age passing away. So I'm sure there was something going on there. I'll be looking into it, of course, to.
She was only 5 days away from her 37th birthday. Yeah. She was just shy of 37.
So that is alarming. That is absolutely alarming and quite tragic. So just got the alert there that she has passed on. And so if you are a fan, if you are a person who is really into her work or anything like that, just go check some stuff out, watch stuff, whatever it is. But yeah, Hayden Panettiere is dead. So good Lord. I watched a lot of that stuff, Heroes in particular. Remember the Titans, that was like the football movie when I was in high school, so geez, I can't believe that she's gone, but yeah. Okay, ending our show on a bit of a somber note, I guess. Well, I will change tack because we haven't done this in a little bit, just to kind of bring us up a little. New Trek updates. So, Star Trek: Strange New Worlds season 4 is in full go. There are 4 episodes out now of the 4th season. Keep in mind, this is not the final season. There is still a 5th season to come, which will be the final season of Strange New Worlds. So stay tuned for that. So far, I've enjoyed every episode in season 4. It seems like they're leaving a few breadcrumbs, setting us up for something with a new secret agency that's been called Sector 12 or Section 12. It's giving very Section 31 vibes. So we'll see if that actually pans out to anything, or if it's just a wink and a nod mention here. There is rumor of another Star Trek movie in the works, that the plan is to let all of the various shows end, because we still have another season of Starfleet Academy to come out, and again, the season 5 of Strange New Worlds, and then once that's done, to have a movie. Star Trek turns 60 this year, so September is going to be a really big month for Star Trek. The infamous Star Trek convention in Vegas, they've already done that this year. Typically, it happens every July. And from what I understand, that was a really big blowout as well. So, again, in celebration of the 60th, there is some talk again. They're going to be doing some kind of spectacular reveal for the 60th anniversary of the franchise in September. So stay tuned for that. I think it's going to be a movie announcement, to be honest. I think that's it makes sense that that's what it would be, considering there's no shows in production. Like, all the shows have wrapped. We're just getting those last 2 seasons of Academy and Strange New Worlds, respectively. what else? There was another Trek thing. Turn 60. Oh, the Smithsonian has removed the original Enterprise model, the one that was used to film the show in the 60s.
Really?
They have temporarily removed it from display. They said that they are going to be cleaning out and installing it in an all-new display case and area. It's supposed to be making it more accessible. It's supposed to include more historical information about the show, Gene Roddenberry, and so forth. Basically, it's giving it a nice update, again, in time for the 60th. So that's also why I think that they're taking it out, because I believe that it's going to do like a little mini tour of sorts while they're, doing their whole 60th hullabaloo like they did before. So stay tuned for that if you're interested at all. I really want to go to the Smithsonian to see it. Just something that's been on my list to do, and I just haven't gotten around to it. I want to go to the Smithsonian, period. I think it'd be interesting to go.
I've been once as a kid. I was a long time ago. I was a kid, but I remember going.
So yeah, that's definitely something I want to cross off the list there as having gone to the Smithsonian as well. So, but yeah, so those are all the Trek things that are going on. Stay tuned again for more as we get closer to September and our big reel. And actually, that reminds me, our anniversary is coming up as well. Our anniversary is in September. We started this show. What was it? 5 years ago?
I think it was 2001. Yeah.
Yeah, so 5 years ago we started this show in September, just after, because we I think we just missed the celebration for Trek then, like by a day.
That's right.
Because they had like Trek Week, and so like the official day was like September 5th or 6th. I think we started on the 7th, something like that.
Right.
So yeah, our anniversary is coming up as well. We're gonna have to do something. Maybe we'll do I don't know, it's kind of giveaway or something. I don't know. We'll think about it. We'll talk about it. We've got time before we put all that out there. But we've got time. I say, yes, we're in the middle of August, so and September is like a couple of weeks away. So
yeah.
But I think that's gonna. It really is. It's like September is what, 2 weeks?
It's 2 weeks. 2 weeks in a day.
Yeah, 2 weeks out from the first. So. All right. Well, I think that is really going to do it for us on this episode. We're right here at the hour mark. Man, it's the first time in a while we have finished this close to an hour. So I'm going to take that as a win. But again, as always, you can find us and follow us anywhere you happen to listen to your podcasts. Of course, all of our stuff is available on YouTube where you can leave comments on any of our videos. If you have any questions, anything like that, please remember to keep it polite because we will not answer if it isn't. All right. But other than that, guys, until next time, take care of yourselves.
Thanks, guys.